Thank you for the privilege of the podium. Thank you for this year and this organization. Anybody who stood up here understands that what a tremendous group of surgeons and families make up the Midwest Surgical Association. And thanks again to Greg Markell, Jeff Matthews, Mike Sarr, these guys who gave such a tremendous addition to the program this year. You know, the beauty of being president is that you can talk about whatever you want to here for a presidential address. And we've had some really fabulous presidential addresses here in the past that are not medical. Many that are medical, many that are not medical. Music obviously is a big part of my life, and so I wanted to share some thoughts and hopefully stimulate some thoughts in you. And so the title of this talk is Music, Medicine, and Mind. I have a few disclosures. I am a professional pancreas surgeon. I am enthusiastic but decidedly amateur musician. I am not a music historian, ethnomusicologist, or brain scientist, although I certainly will touch on all those points in the next half an hour. I have no financial disclosure professionally, and as Dr. Godelis highlighted, we don't get paid too much for our gigs either. Like any of these talks, there are a million people to thank, and I do want to thank all of my friends at the Midwest Surgical Association. Tony Senegor is the guy who got me plugged into this group very early in my professional career. And I've met so many cool people from the community. Jim DeBorg took me out golfing. My one regret with this talk is not being able to find the picture of DeBorg with a pink golf ball that I wanted to highlight prominently right here. In that foursome was Loring Helfrich, who schooled me on the golf course, which doesn't take too much. But then subsequently he felt bad and invited me to Sikeston, Missouri to give a talk. This is a picture of Loring at his hospital in Sikeston, and right next to him is Dr. Warren Cole's shotgun. We're not allowed to bring weapons into our hospital, but I think in Sikeston, that's not only allowed but encouraged. Loring has been a great friend and just an example of the camaraderie of this organization, which is about family and fun. And this is Jake and JR last year at Mackinac Island. JR, great idea to go fishing. We named all of these fish. I think this was Large Larry or Lean Larry or something like that. I have been inordinately gifted in my life to have so many wonderful mentors. And I can't say enough about Mike Sarr, who is truly exemplifies what a mentor should be, and a friend. This is a picture of Mike. He was not getting married to Jen, but on a good day in our life. My colleagues in the HPB surgery group at IU, Dr. Mike House is here. Max Schmidt obviously has done such a fabulous job with the program this year. Attila Nakib and Gene Seppa. This is the best pancreas surgery group on the planet. I am biased, but this is also a true fact. I've had a lot of mentors in music. This is Eric Moore, a wonderful friend of mine, brilliant musician and songwriter, and really helped me develop musically when we lived in Wyoming together. And this is a gig we played after not having seen each other in about 5 years. And the sign taped on the amp there says "Ensayes por cobardes," which loosely translates, "Rehearsing is for cowards," which is good in music, perhaps not so great in surgery. My family, you've seen them all here. They're in the front row. Anna, Jake, Maddie, JR, Sarah, Claire. You guys are really the sunshine in our lives. And Jennifer, the mom who makes it all happen. This is my mom and dad, my two sisters, Lissa and Monica, who are in LA. That's their problem today. But, again, I can't say enough about Jen. Jennifer is a full-time surgeon. She's an overtime super mom. She is quite possibly the single most organized person on the planet. This is Jen in her native fun place, which is demolishing and restoring houses in case we didn't have enough going on in her lives. She and her sister are flipping a house on the near north side of Indy. And this is, I think, the only existing picture of the two of us scrubbed together. I was a first-year attending and Jen was a senior resident. I thought I might be bossing her around a little bit, but I was promptly put in my place when she told me how to mobilize the right colon. So Jen, I love you, sweetheart. Thank you. With a family like this to thank, it only leaves me about 10 minutes left for the rest of the talk. But in this time, I'm going to try to talk to you about three specific things, some general concepts about music and where does it come from. It's so ubiquitous in our world as humans. And then I can't get rid of the academician, and so I'm going to show you a little bit of data about music in medicine. And then finally leave you with a few thoughts on music in terms of my own personal education. And it's important to start with a definition to anything. This is JR at an early gig, and he must have heard the sound check, and he quickly put his headphones on so he didn't have to hear any more of the music. When you think of music as an art, it's a social and cultural construct that really reflects the historical context in which it's presented. And if you're trying to think, as I was for a little bit, about music and where does it come from, I think it's important to distinguish this from musicality, which is the set of mental processes that underlie this musical behavior and perception, which, interestingly, are really stable across time and place, if you think about culture and time. The best definition of music that I have come across is organized sound, and this is the composer, Edgar Varese. All of these components, pitch, rhythm, melody, contour, the contour of the melody, harmony, loudness, tempo, timbre, reverberation, all comprise music, which is ultimately the emotional trajectory that's a balance of tension and release when you listen to music of any genre, including this genre, which is whatever I play. I don't know if this is folk or blues or rock, but I will tell you, when you're playing with a five-piece horn section like these guys who call themselves the Abdomen, there's some emotional trajectory and tension and release there. It's a pretty awesome thing. The human origins of music date back to the 14th century and likely beyond. The oldest human instrument that is found in Hohlfest, Germany, is 43,000 years old. This is bone flute. The oldest song that's recorded after written time, and I think this is Sanskrit, and maybe my mom can help me with that, but this is discovered in Ugarit, which is now contemporary Syria, in the 14th century before Christ. And there are transcriptions from this primitive language into the music, and people have recorded this. It's a very interesting listen. When we try to address the evolution or the teleology of music and think about it, how does music come through different species? Even the most primitive species, fruit flies, produce music. The beating wings of a fruit fly is a form of communication. Not surprisingly, a male trying to attract a female, all the way down evolution. This is an instinctive sound, instinctive music, and research has shown that this is under genetic control. Different species of fruit fly produce different musical songs from the beating of their wings. I enthusiastically told this fact to my colleague, Dr. Attila Nakib, who informed me that after discovering this, we promptly heard the first evidence of percussion as the scientists slapped the fruit fly. When you get to a higher order species, such as the gibbon or the loon, the songs become more acoustically complex, and anyone who's heard the song of a loon on a lake in Minnesota can certainly attest to this fact. However, musical production is still instinctive, and there are only a few mammalian species and 3 species of birds that have developed what we call complex vocal learning. For example, in the parrot, who can mimic song. More interesting is the beluga whale on the dolphin, who can actually learn and mimic human speech, and there's some fascinating research in this area. And it's perhaps these observations that led Charles Darwin to postulate that music precedes spoken language. Another fascinating observation is among different cultures of humans, language is very, very different, but music has a great deal of similarity, particularly if you consider the different pitch collections in musical scales, even among Eastern music, Indian music, African music, what we call North American music. And this is what distinguishes us from the lower order, what we would consider lower order animals. For example, in the avian world, there's no relative pitch recognition. So if I sang Happy Birthday to You in several different keys, we would still understand the concept of that melody and the contour of that melody, but birds can't get that. So music is a human universal. It's diverse in structure and meaning across cultures. One of the beautiful things about being an academic surgeon is that I get to travel, and wherever I go, I try to examine the local music, particularly the folk music. Obviously, I'm biased towards the stringed instruments. This is a picture of a sitar lesson in Chandigarh, India. This picture is in a music dojo in Osaka, Japan. And this is a shamisen, which is an Okinawan stringed instrument. There's a turtle shell. Such diverse cultures as South Carolina. This is one of our guest speakers, Dr. Jeff Matthews, who sat in at a gig in Hilton Head, South Carolina at a surgery conference. And my good friend Claudio Bassi, an Italian pancreatic surgeon who's legendary. And this is a picture of us recording the Pancreas Fistula Blues, which is cleverly disguised as P Blues on these CDs that hopefully all of you guys are taking home to get out of our basement. This is a transition slide for me into the academic portion of the music in medicine. Jeff and Claudio are fabulous musicians, and in fact, as I was getting ready for this talk, I checked PubMed, of course, and a survey of PubMed from 1950 to the present reveals over 150 papers that are published related to music. These papers are published in the general medical journals, specialty medical journals, nursing journals. I even came across one reference in a legal journal. Thankfully, that was just in abstract form from a conference in Las Vegas, so likely that thing will never get published, thankfully for us. The methodology among these papers is ranged from survey data to very sophisticated experimental designs, ranging all the way to the borderline absurd, as is evidenced by the Razor's Edge. This publication, titled Australian Rock Music Impairs Men's Performance When Pretending to be a Surgeon. The experimental design for these scientists was this Australian version of the game Operation. And they took untrained individuals off the street pretending to be a surgeon, played a music or not, and evaluated how effective they were at doing the Australian operation. But they put some bar graphs in it, and apparently that was enough to satisfy the reviewers at the Medical Journal of Australia. So they got this published. So I'd like to focus on three areas academically. What is the effect of, and refine this to surgery. What is the effect on our surgical patients? What is the effect of music on the surgeon operating? And then think about what effect we have in the operating room on our staff. The effect on the patient was pretty easy research for me. This meta-analysis was published in the British Journal of Surgery just last year and is an outstanding paper. They found in the methodology 7,385 patients among a number of prospective randomized trials. These two graphs summarize the overall effects on the patient in terms of anxiety on the top graph and the pain on the bottom graph. And it's easy to see that all of these studies showed positive effects for your patient in terms of reducing pain and reducing anxiety. The caveat being, you should ask the patient what kind of music they like to listen to. So music is very effective in patient care. How about the effects on surgical performance? Again, a number of different papers have been published in this arena, and I've selected a couple representative studies, including this prospective randomized study of the effect of music on the efficiency of surgical closures performed by these plastic surgeons who randomized their residents and some attending staff to closing wounds on a pig's foot. They videoed the closures, they showed it to blind judges, and they found that music made the plastic surgery residents faster in the wound closure with improved quality as judged by the blinded faculty. This paper, which was published in the Annals of Plastic Surgery, used a little more sophisticated metric evaluating microsurgical technique and the effects on performance of, again, wound closure. And again, these results were very positive. Playing preferred music in the operating room had a positive effect on the trainees' microsurgical performance. The third area I'll touch on is the effect of music on our staff and surgeons in the OR. And I'll take a straw poll in the audience right now among operating surgeons. How many have music playing in your OR? This is a very, very common phenomenon. This example, which reflects the majority of the surgeons' hands in the room, reflects survey data across the globe, ranging from above 50% to nearly 90% of surgeons surveyed have some sort of music in the OR. The first report of music being played in the OR was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association in 1914 by Evan O'Neill Kane. And this is the paper phonograph in the operating room documenting the calming effects on the patient. And he acknowledges Dr. Burdrick, his anesthetist, for selection of records admirably adapted to the tastes and temperament of the subjects. Now, Dr. Kane should be taken with a small grain of salt, as he's much better known for his propensity for self-operation. In fact, he performed 3 operations on his own self. In January 1919, amputating an infected finger. In February of 1921, performing an appendectomy. And finally, in January 1932, as is evidenced in this picture, performing his own inguinal herniorrhaphy. Unfortunately, he contracted pneumonia after the latter operation and succumbed as a consequence of his own surgical complication. The question of whether or not music should be played in the operating room results in split decision. Here are a few representative papers documenting this question. The sounds of music in the operating room is widely quoted, published in the journal Injury in 2008, is widely cited by surgeons as music having a positive effect on the staff working in the OR, making them calm and more efficient. On the other hand, some research published in the nursing literature regarding music and communication in the operating theater concluded that music played in the operating theater can interfere with team communication and is a seldom recognized but potentially significant safety hazard. A few more papers published in our own literature, the effect of noise on auditory processing in the operating room, published in the Journal of the American College of Surgeons in 2013, concluded that operating room noise causes a decrease in auditory processing functioning, making it more difficult when communication involves conversations that carry critical information. And they conclude that attempts should be made to reduce ambient noise levels. This paper straddles 3 lines in this argument. Music Meets Surgery was published in Surgical Endoscopy and concluded, number 1, music can have beneficial effects on the patients, decreasing stress, anxiety, and the demand for analgesic. Number 2, for the surgical staff, music is considered to be distracting. However, for number 3, for the surgeon, music can increase the speed and accuracy of task performance. So how do you balance those 3 balls? This paper was published in a relatively reputable journal, Surgery, although editorial purview should certainly be considered. In 2016, a large survey that included OR staff and nurses and surgeons, a very well-balanced large survey, concluded that musical preferences and perceptions of the effect of music in the OR differ by professional status and specialty, provide insight into broader team dynamics that may be leveraged to optimize the OR environment. So I would encourage, what I have learned from preparing this talk, and what I would encourage you to consider is involving your OR team in the music selection, in the volume of the music, and particularly respecting communication at times that may be difficult during the course of an operation. I'm going to leave you with a couple slides, hopefully that are thought-provoking, and this is related to some lessons that I've learned as I've reflected on how music has impacted my life. I think first and foremost, music provides a tremendous balance for me in a stressful situation at work, in a very loving but occasionally stressful situation at home. It's taught me how to be a better listener. It's taught me patience, particularly with other musicians, and patience with imperfection. It's taught me lessons about performance, lessons about accepting imperfection. Music has been a source of continuous growth and education, and I hope this will continue to be the case through my life. Songwriting, in particularly, has made me aware of my surroundings and the human condition. It's helped me be more open-minded, I hope, to others. It's given me appreciation for others' music. I would like to think there's no bad music. As much as I do not like rap music, somebody has created that, and it's helped me be tolerant of that creativity. This man is V.H. Bhatt, an Indian guru, and I really love his concept of the hierarchy of sounds, which I've listed here from the lowest importance, which is words, to the next highest important, music, and the most important in the hierarchy of sounds, which is silence. V.H. Bhatt implores his students, never try to be greater than the raga. Appreciate the song for what it is, and an individual musician is never greater than the song. And I'd like to leave you with this final thought. This is my friend Matt Pivick. Matt's the director of jazz studies at Butler University in Indianapolis. I was fortunate to meet Matt because several of our children have grown up together. Matt's an A-League musician. He's the real deal. He's a tenor sax player, and he's an educator. And when we talk, it's fascinating for me to listen to his perspective on music, on life, on education, and the confluence of all these things. And Matt introduced me to this concept about educating children in music. And his idea was that creativity, the idea of creating music, fosters respect for the process, respect for the product, and most importantly, respect for the others who are creating this music with you. And that this may help dissuade children from violence. It may help respect for other human beings. And so that's where some of these ideas come from, and I'm glad that as a father I've been able to give a little bit of musical influence to my children. And so as I wrap up this talk, I'm going to indulge myself with the privilege of the podium, and I'd like to play a song for you guys, and you're stuck. You got to listen to it. This is how I get bigger audiences at my gigs, Dean. So I'll take 1 minute to get set up and introduce this song for you. Anna, do you want to sing with me? No. Am I good, guys? Can I tune this on without killing you? This is a song that came to me right after Sarah was born, our fifth child. Sarah was born 13 minutes after we arrived at the hospital. She hasn't slowed down since. And it really caused me to reflect on fatherhood and the importance of our family and our children. And the song is called A Father's Prayer. And it's on one of those CDs that you should take home with you. Hello and welcome, little girl, like a summer thunder shower came crashing to this world, clean and pure, unspoiled by toil or strife. Remind us every day this miracle that's life. You know there ain't no blueprint for this role. Fatherhood's a leap of faith, must embrace it heart and soul. Have you such a short time? I see this every day. Well, first you crawl and then you walk, and then you're gonna run away. If you ride a motorcycle or wear a big tattoo, you know I'm gonna love you, girl. That's just what fathers do. And when you climb the highest mountain, sail the wide blue sea, I pray for peace on your journey, that your heart's forever free. I guess I've known it for a long time. Now I clearly see it's true. What started as a song for one is about all six of you. So when you see this with a smile, I pray someday you feel this joy when you see your own child smile. And then they ride their motorcycle, they paint their hair bright blue. You're gonna love a man, that's what a dad's supposed to do. And then they climb the highest mountain, sail the wide blue sea, they pray for peace on their journey,